So it's 1,074 days, another episode of The Heart of It. I'm so excited, as I always am excited, because my guests are amazing. But this particular guest, it seems like it's a good time to have them on, because over the weekend, I think I had a lot of religious connotations. One, it was Easter. Two, I saw Project Hail Mary, and we are in the middle of Passover. So I'm excited to have my friend and senior rabbi at Congregation Beth Yeshurun, Houston, Texas, Brian Strauss. Welcome, Brian.
It's great to see you, Scott. It's funny. I saw that movie too. Lisa and I saw it yesterday. It was really good.
Good. I was going to ask you.
Yeah, definitely one of the better movies I've seen in a long time. It was like a reminder, how important science is. That you could be Ryan Gosling and this cool guy and be a science nerd, and you realize and now you have these astronauts up there right now that are going farther than humans have ever gone before, and then you have this movie that that could happen. I think we all understand there's probably intelligent life out there. But Rocky, and I apologize if you haven't seen the movie, but I never would have pictured that dude. And that Rocky dude, the alien, was so cool. I love that guy.
Yeah. My takeaway, Brian, was that Hollywood doesn't do anything original. Nothing is original. Yeah. And so it's the marriage of two movies. It's the marriage of the movie The Martian that Matt Damon famously played, which I love, and E.T. So they took two movies and made one movie now.
That's
with
so true.
But still creative, and I like Rocky too. And I like the references because my favorite actual movie is Rocky, so the Adrian Rocky reference is really sweet. I was I didn't know that was coming, so that was great. I gotta say, we're gonna talk about a lot of things, but out of the gate, just curious, I mentioned we're in Passover. So since we're in Passover, we're gonna give you 1 minute on straight rabbi, and then we're gonna talk a little bit about how you got to be a rabbi. But for maybe those that aren't familiar or who didn't go to enough Sunday school, could be some of my friends from Sunday school, 1 minute or less on kind of the story of Passover. I know that's a big challenge, but let's hear it.
Wow, 1 minute. Hundreds of years. Okay, well, I like that. You know what? That's cool. Look, I would tell you, Passover, I tell everyone, it's the Jewish people's master story. It answers the question, how are the Jewish people still here? It's because God chose to take us out of Egypt, not to be free, do what we want. We're free to be God's people, to make this world a better place.
Yeah.
It's our master story. It's why we're here. And it gives us not only our history, but also gives us our plan of action to follow God's laws in order to make the world better through our partnership, a covenant with God. And we wouldn't be able to fulfill that covenant, that Brit, if we weren't freed from Egypt. So it's everything wrapped up into one with some really interesting food and symbols and customs that only we do 8 days a year.
I'm going to have another question about symbols and customs in just a second, but I was going to ask you, is it the Super Bowl of all the Jewish holidays? That's a hard pick, right?
I would say that. It's the Super Bowl in terms of home, but I would say the Super Bowl is Yom Kippur. I would say it's like an NFC championship game. It's good. It's good. It's big. Okay. But it's not Yom Kippur is even bigger.
Yeah. Okay. I thought you might say that, but we can agree.
It's debatable. It's debatable. More Jews keep Seder, more American Jews do Seder than any other mitzvah of the year.
Yeah. I know people always ask me, it's they are fascinated, and I tell my non-Jewish friends, there's so many of the historical pictures of the Last Supper was a Seder. Right?
Yeah.
I mean, that's the Seder table.
Friends can relate.
Yeah. So I start there and hey, listen. So there's that. Okay. So before we get on to how you got to be a rabbi, because I think it's going to be fascinating. You're the first guest in so many episodes. My first clergy. So there you go. You have
I'm honored.
You're going to set a high bar. What of all the other world religions that you are familiar with, since we talked about symbols and customs, what do you think is the one, just off the top of your head, fascinating, interesting thing that custom, other religion thing, you're I would like to go do that?
I'll give you an easy answer. Yesterday, Lisa and I had an opportunity to attend Easter services with a pastor and his wife that are friends of ours. And I would say 3/4 of the Easter service was Christian rock. And it was really cool. It was good. I mean, they had professional singers, they had a band, they had an orchestra. It was awesome. I was so glad to be there and so well received and welcomed.
Right.
It made me feel good that in my city and in America, there's this place where people are coming together for good. It's not my tradition, it's not my customs, but I can appreciate the fact that here's hundreds of people coming together to appreciate the beauty of their faith.
I saw your pictures. I saw the couple with you. I saw it yesterday morning. I commented that, there's Brian at church. But I know you do that. You do a lot of interfaith.
It's so important.
Yeah, I know it is. And you've done an amazing job. Okay, so we came out of the gate hot because I have so many things. We talk all the time, but I could ask you questions all the time.
Okay.
So I just want to ask, we've known each other, Brian. My recollection is I knew you in high school, but we didn't go to the same high school. We did youth group, city-based youth group. So I knew you a little, but I got to know you much better in college as we were fraternity brothers. And I remember, this is my memory about your rabbinical journey, and let's talk about yours, how you got there. But I know that you were interested in it and you did a lot, but it really came clear for me when you were waiting to hear from rabbinical school. Like people were waiting to hear from medical school, some weren't sure where they were going. I fell in that category. Others were like, and here you were, the one guy that I knew waiting to get like accepted to essentially the program you needed to go down this path, right? But just talk to me about how you decided this. Where did this all come to be? Did you know as a boy, like versus being an astronaut or a doctor, that you wanted to be a rabbi?
Okay, it started, you mentioned youth group in BBYO, and I remember you and I played each other on the AZA flag football field.
I must have been a winner.
I may be an okay rabbi. I was a terrible athlete and a terrible AZA. They barely let me play. When they felt sorry for me, I got to go on the field when Eshkol played Lewis. But it was really back in BBYO when I started thinking about becoming a rabbi, because I love Judaism and I love teaching and I love helping people. And I started thinking in high school, becoming a rabbi allows me to do all three things: promote Judaism, help people, and teach. Because a rabbi comes from the Jewish word to be a teacher. Right. So ultimately, I'm a teacher in the way I act and the way I help people, teaching classes, counseling people. I'm meeting with someone right after this to counsel them, someone who's 40 years older than me. But I'm counseling him, not because of me, but because I got to study and get to study our tradition and learn the wisdom of our tradition. And so I went to University of Texas, then went right to rabbinical school. And I feel very blessed.
But that wasn't, so I'm going to stop you because as I remember, you knew you wanted to be a rabbi, but okay, that's a broad thing. So you didn't actually start as in the conservative movement of Judaism, right?
Right. I thought I wanted to become a reform rabbi because I was observant, but not so observant. And I was becoming a little more traditional, but I wasn't ready to jump into something that was too traditional for me. And the Reform Rabbinical School is an amazing rabbinical school. Some wonderful people there, great teachers. It just wasn't for me. And after 2 years there, I realized that I was becoming too traditional. I wanted to do more than the Reform movement allowed me to do and was available for me, where the conservative movement felt more like me. And so I transferred after 2 years there and switched to the conservative rabbinical school.
So it's interesting, really quickly, for those that maybe aren't familiar, and maybe, again, there are some that just don't understand how to explain it, because when I sometimes say I grew up at a synagogue or at a temple, right? There's temple, synagogue, some people say that. There's a lot of that where it's mysterious to those that maybe don't understand, or even some of those inside, because they haven't had a broad strokes view of the faith. What's the difference between a conservative, without going down the rabbit hole?
Yeah.
Is it just that it's more traditional? What is it?
Yeah, I always tell people the word conservative doesn't mean we're conservative socially. I think it's pretty evenly mixed in most conservative synagogues. We conserve the tradition in the face of modernity.
I love that.
Yeah, and that's where the term comes from. Yeah, that's where reform is. All the mitzvot are primarily man-made. So you reform the traditions, you reform the rituals. It's more about the prophets, and it's more about the ethics, and more about the midrash. Where conservative movement is in between. It says, no, those rituals, they were given to us by God. We can change them, adapt them to a modern world, but they still build a sense of obligation for us. We can't just change them as we want to change them. And so we have to find ways in which to conserve the tradition. And so for me, it's more relevant, it makes more sense, and I think it's more practical for a lot of American Jews, the type that I want to work with and teach.
I was going to talk about this later, but I think it's a good time to talk about it, because as we prepared to do this, you and I have talked a lot. I think the broader world is excited about Judaism and pop culture for the past many years. Maybe I feel like in the last 15 years, at the same time we know there's issues that are not that way. In pop culture, we see a lot of it. And Netflix has this great series that's coming back that a mutual friend of ours had something to do with, which is neat too, about a rabbi, right? It's Nobody Wants This. And I think that's the struggle, right? There, it's just interfaith, which comes up a lot. But I think there's been a lot of, they've done a good job in that show of showing customs and rituals with a funny take on it. And this very handsome rabbi who I know that you're a fan of. Yeah. So are you having the same experience in the synagogue about people's like seeing this show? Has anybody talked about it to you? I've heard a lot about it.
Absolutely. I think people really liked it because I think it showed a rabbi who was relatable and down to earth, and that dealt with challenges that we all deal with, family, with relationships, with your own personal growth, and it made the rabbi very human. And
I love that.
And it's so true. I'm very blessed to live now as a rabbi. I hear many stories about rabbis way before me. There was an incredible rabbi named Rabbi Malev, who was the rabbi at my congregation in the 50s and 60s. And that was a time when rabbis were holier than thou. They didn't have friends. You didn't go up and just talk to them. They were like God on high. And they would literally stare you down if you were talking in services. Today, it's so different. Now, I like it when people call me Brian. I like it when someone can talk to me about the UT football game or the Houston Texans or whatever it may be. And so it's a much, I don't think easier is the right word, but I'm very lucky. I couldn't have been a rabbi in the 50s and 60s. That would not be my personality.
Yeah. So I've watched you on this journey, even from the day that you got in. I've been fortunate to be your friend and watched you through your navigating on where you might make your career, because it's like anything else, right? You have to get your first chances to do this, and then you want to find a congregation that sticks. What resonates with me is I got to visit you in Israel. So we shared a Shabbat in Israel while you were as part of your work. You were there.
I remember.
And I remember, like, at that moment thinking, wow, my friends really... secretly I used to brag, and I still do, that like I have a rabbi on my board of me, right? Like,
yeah, absolutely.
It's an incredible gift to have you at the traditions and things for all of our expanded friend group, but then specifically for my monumental educations, it's like I have my own rabbi because it's you. So to that end, like, who do you look to? I'm just curious. Obviously, there's other emeritus. Like, I think that's always what you see in these movies, is that the young rabbi is looking at some sage, and even in this movie, that's the case. Who do you look to?
No, look, I am so blessed. In my congregation, there's 2 rabbis that are considered emeriti now, are emeritus, and I'm very close, and I've worked with them now for 25 years. So they're mentors for me still. And then I have 2 colleagues that I work with every single day that are younger than me, but are incredible people. And so I learn from them. I grow from them. And I have a number of friends who are good friends. I was just at a rabbinic conference 2 weeks ago. There's 150 rabbis, and some of my best rabbi friends were there. And we were at the PGA Resort in Florida. Now, I can't tell you anyone played golf. I don't know why they put us there, but it was so great. Like, I could have meals, and we'd stayed up late at night because we could relate so much. So I think I have a lot of colleagues, older and younger, because we can relate to the specific challenges of being a rabbi. So I turn to them often.
Something I haven't asked you before.
Yeah.
It's one thing that you have other rabbis that you relate to. I have met other faith-based clergy, and I often think there's that stereotype of the preacher's kid. So I'm curious, how have your kids done with you being a rabbi? Because it's a great responsibility. I've often thought, I know your 3 kids. They're all very different. But what, from your perspective, like, has it been easy for them, hard for them, demanding?
Look, I will say this. One thing that Lisa and I worked really hard at is we never wanted to move. We wanted our kids to grow up in the same community. So thank God we got to do that. And I wanted my kids to go to Jewish schools that were within the conservative reform framework, which they got to, with our own day school, and there's a community Jewish middle school and high school that also let them play sports and get involved in theater and get involved in different programs. I'll give you an example, which I think I look back now and I don't regret. In Houston, like most cities, you want your kids to play sports, they have to play on Shabbat.
Right.
And when I was in rabbinical school and fresh, I was like, no way I'll ever let my kids play on Shabbat. But then after a short amount of time, I realized if I didn't let them play on Shabbat, they would never play. And so eventually I realized, you know what? This is their life. They have to decide one day how observant they want to be. But I don't want to take away sports from them, because there's so many values you learn from sports. And luckily, my kids got their athletic abilities from my wife, Lisa, not from me. So they were actually pretty good. And so they all got to play sports. I don't think my kids grew up feeling like they were missing out on anything. If anything, Judaism gave them a base and a foundation, but they didn't feel like their friends were getting to do things they weren't. So they never grew up resentful. And so I feel like for now, God willing, it always is the case, my kids have a good and positive appreciation for their Judaism.
One of the things I remember is when I saw you in Israel, and I think you came to Dallas one time very early on in my first house, and like when we were having you over to eat, there was this whole notion of you being kosher, and I do not keep kosher, and I've watched you even with that. We've talked about it, how you have, it's not that you've had to create a well-rounded what works for Brian, and I think you probably advise your congregants that way. I don't think you come from a judgy place at all. I think you've found your place and your family's place in it, and I admire that about you, and I think that's something that I think is going to lead me to my next question, which is something I've asked you, we've discussed, but I know it's on the minds of everybody, especially in this holiday time. I noticed yesterday I was walking in my neighborhood, and I've noticed in the past many years, it doesn't feel the same way it once did when it was Easter. More things are open. I think it's the same for Christmas. I think observance of world religion is at a decline because I think participation is at a decline. What's behind that from your perspective? And I know that's a big question, but I just would love your perspective on it and what you're seeing in that and your own experience.
No, it's a good question. In some ways, we really, in a nutshell, you're seeing a trend amongst all religions, and certainly is the case of Judaism. The middle is being hollowed out. You're seeing more conservative elements of the different faiths, whether it's Islam, Christianity, or Judaism, growing because they have more kids, and their kids usually stay more traditional. But you're also seeing a growth in the secular elements, the more to the left. I'm not talking about reform. I'm talking about Jews and Christians and Muslims who have nothing to do with religion. It's the middle, it's the moderates,
right.
It's the conservative and reform movements and similar-minded movements within the other faiths of our world that are having a more challenging time. Look at our politics.
Right.
The extremes are growing, and the moderates, those in the middle, are having a hard time finding their home. And so that's a real challenge because I don't think we want to be left with the world where the only religious choice is a more not that I have anything wrong against traditional communities, but that's not for everyone. I never want American Judaism to be either you're Orthodox or you're nothing.
Right.
And so that's a challenge I have every day is keeping my congregation strong because we're traditional, but we're not Orthodox, and giving people a taste, a good appreciation for Jewish tradition, not just a taste, but living it, but within a conservative context. So I think people are looking for faith, but it's a matter of getting people to be committed to that faith within a non-traditional framework.
I had the opportunity last week to attend a lunch with the governor of Utah, Spencer Cox.
Oh, wow.
So Spencer Cox is an interesting guy because with the
Yeah.
stuff that happened in Utah, the Charlie Kirk assassination, and then
He handled that really well.
Yeah, he did a good job. Him and his wife Abby have this concept that they're out promoting called Disagree Better, which is a really interesting thing.
Oh, I love
but
that.
What he talked about when he spoke was this, and I've been thinking about it since I saw him, that human beings are innately tribal. Like if you go back to the caves when you saw hieroglyphics on the side of the wall, it was never one stick figure. It was many stick figures, right?
Yeah.
Because we're meant to be together. Connection and connectivity. And historically, faith-based communities were that place, right? And so with the decline, we've lost this, and we have this epidemic of loneliness coming in as a result of all of that. So it's feeding, and often when you see these extreme terrorist or situations, we go and look at who's committed the crime, and they've had some connectivity to a group online, meaning they're not going and part of it, but it's their way to feel they're able to connect via online, but they're not really actively part. So it was something when he talked about faith-based communities, I thought, gosh, we got to do better because, and it's interesting because I know that I appreciate Christmas and the tradition of Christmas. I asked you about the customs and Easter. So it's interesting that you say that.
Yeah,
okay.
No, absolutely.
To get in touch with Rabbi Brian Strauss or to learn more about his work at Congregation Beth Yeshurun, go to bethyeshurun.org. So we got to shift gears because above your head there's a football. In case you're not, don't turn around. And we love our football. So I got to ask you, like we both love the Texas Longhorns. Do you pray before they play? Really?
Well, if I am, it didn't work this past year. Actually,
right. That's what I'm asking. That's why I'm asking. I want you to change the prayer. I want you to change your routine.
So I will tell you, I don't pray may the horns win because I know God has more important things to worry about. But I would tell you the proper Jewish prayer is to pray that everyone's safe, that no one gets hurt, that they play to the best of their abilities.
Right.
And look, if Texas wins, great. But no, you never know. I don't. And look, I tell my young people, you're not even supposed to pray, God, give me an A. It's
right.
Weeks before, God, help me work hard and stay up to date in my classes. And God's not like Santa Claus, right? God's
right.
like God's gives us we pray every day. After this, in a little while, I'm going to say Kaddish for my mother. And I pray the afternoon evening service. And the prayer is, the fourth prayer in the Amidah is, God, give me the wisdom to do my best. It's not God, give me $1 million tomorrow.
The serenity prayer that often people know they associate with, right? It's just God give me strength for the things I can control and things I can't, right?
Absolutely.
I think I always said that it relates to football. When you see athletes and they thank Jesus or God for the touchdown, I'm like, no, that's fine. No matter what your religion is, but let's do it the way Brian says, which is thank you for the gifts and talents, which by the way, associates with my favorite prayer since we're at it, which is Modeh Ani. Used to be, because I didn't know, I think I told you my journey these past many days post my heart transplant. I always thought it was a song at my summer camp. I never realized it was a prayer because I wasn't as observant. And it's ritualistically the first prayer we're supposed to say every morning. I have modified it to just say it sometime during the day, but it's about thanking for gifts and talents, thank you for sustenance, thank you for having a roof over my head. It's a gratitude prayer. So
it is. It's the essence of what it means to be a Jew.
Okay, I have told people that our friendship has grown. It's one of the most important friendships, not because I always call you for things, but I tell other people that in many ways I try to be for you what I think no rabbi has. Because you did say you're just a person, right? Yes, but in society we look at clergy like I know the joke, if a young kid sees the rabbi at the grocery store, it's like seeing the teacher at the grocery store. So what's he doing here? Like they associate you with a place where they see you on the bima every week. But I have felt this great sense of pride/responsibility to be what I call the rabbi's sponge, which is that you can call me. When your mom passed away, which you mentioned, I checked on you a few weeks after. And I know that your congregants, because we so often go to the rabbi, but yet nobody ever goes to the rabbi. And I have made it my custom, both for you and my rabbi here in Dallas, to do that as a result of being your friend. That I love that we have this human connection. So my question is, how do you escape from being a rabbi? Because I know it's not going to the grocery store, but what are your things that you like to do? Because your schedule is so demanding. What do you do outside of those walls of the synagogue? How do you find joy?
Yeah, and it's definitely not going to the grocery store, because unless I go 30 minutes away from our house, I'm going to run into people, which I don't mind doing, but sometimes you just need that break.
And they're going to judge you for what's in your cart.
Yeah, absolutely, or what I'm wearing, or 100%. I do have certain hobbies. I exercise a lot. I like walking. I like going to the gym. I like following sports. I do yoga. So I definitely have my things, and I think the greatest challenge I have is when I'm doing those things, whether it's at the gym or going on a long walk or whatever it may be, is putting away the phone.
Yeah.
And I'm working really hard. Passover is about freeing ourselves from our enslavements. And, I'm enslaved to this thing. I admit it. And so I'm trying to break free a little bit, because from those dopamine hits that I get when I see those texts and emails. And it's hard as senior rabbi because I'm constantly on call, but I've got to free myself more.
It's amazing that you mentioned the phone, because I'm going on this week to the Masters.
Oh, sweet.
On Thursday. I've been once before. They allow no phones on the property. So
yeah, which is, oh God.
I know, and they make such a deal that they have actual landlines there that I can call you. I'll try to call you from there.
That's
and just,
awesome.
hey, I'm
I
on
did
the
not know
phone.
that.
Yeah, they have a phone bank that they set up. That's the whole thing, is like you put your phone away, you go there. They don't really even want any distractions for the players. They hang on to, it's like the last final frontier for like any tradition, right? They really hang on to it. And I think people are bought into that. So it's funny that you mentioned the phone.
That's really cool.
Yeah, because on Thursday I'm going, maybe that'll be my thing.
Dude, have a great time, man. So you can't take pictures there.
No, you can take a picture in front. They'll send it to you. They give a thing because they know people want to commemorate that.
That's awesome. I did not know
Yeah.
that.
So conversely, you talk about how you relax. I know that your schedule, it's got to be the hardest part of your job. It's just, you think you know what's going to go on in a week, but you can have a baby being born, people pass away, some tragedy in the synagogue. Like, how have you adjusted to not knowing what to expect on a given week?
It's so hard. That's the hardest part of my job, right? Like I'm going out of town. I'm going out of town this weekend with some friends, and there's part of me that's really nervous that a funeral could come up and I've got to stay and then miss the trip. And that's always part of it. I remember I had to leave. I was in Germany with my sons, and I had to come back a day early for a funeral. So I get really nervous about that. Not that I necessarily expect the synagogue, oh, Brian, you have to come back, because there are other rabbis here. But if it's someone I have a relationship with, their family that I've known, I feel terrible, like I'm not there for them. And let me tell you, 9 out of 10 times, people are really cool about it. Brian, you got to have your vacation time. But there's still that sense of guilt.
Yeah.
And that's like, I'm sorry I couldn't be there for you.
You've been at the congregation for so long that the relationships are deep. And as much as it is about how you feel, it's that the family's going to be more comforted by you being
there. Yeah, absolutely. I feel terrible. Like I mentioned that conference 2 weeks ago. I missed a woman who I really like a lot, I'm friends with. Her father-in-law passed away. And I told her, I said, look, I got this conference. It's one of the few conferences I go to. I look forward to. I need that space to hang with other rabbis. And she was cool about it. But there's still that sense. Also, number 2, I'm a little crazy about it. But if there's procrastination, I'm the opposite. Like I work so far ahead. Part of it is my own anxiety. Like I got to get these done. But I also know there could be a week I could end up at 3 funerals and I get nothing else done. So I've got to work ahead. So I at least have an idea of what I'm going to talk about, my sermon.
Because you may get prep time that you thought you had is now swallowed up by some unexpected.
100%. Whether it's
you want to be great for
that,
and you want to be great for what you there's a lot of.
I don't want to give something half effort to it. I want it to be good.
I've often thought, like, when I think about you, like you are able to take vacation, you do
Yeah.
plan these things, and part of your job, the other side of it is you take these amazing trips. I know a few of our friends got the chance to go with you to Poland, which was I know
Oh, it
deeply.
was awesome.
So on one hand, right, that's also part of the job. You take trips to Israel and a lot of guide your congregation. So that has to have been pretty enriching over these many years.
Yeah, it was worth, personally, it's amazing, but professionally, I made some really good relationships. Israel many times, Germany, Poland. We got enough people. We're going to go. We have about 40 people. 11 months from now, we're going to Argentina.
Wow.
A lot of people don't know there's almost 200,000 Jews in Argentina. It's an incredible community.
So do you plan all the programming for that?
I have a tour group that plans,
yes.
but I do all the rabbinic stuff, the spiritual
Right.
stuff. But let me tell you, it is a lot of work. On the bus, I mean, work's not the right word, but there's not an off moment on a trip like that. Like you're on the bus, you're getting to know people.
Yeah.
But I treasure that because I get to know people that I wouldn't necessarily gotten to know otherwise.
Right, because you're with them for touring extensively.
You know
during
what
the
it's
days
like
and stuff.
traveling.
Yeah,
When you're with
yeah,
your
yeah.
family, you're really with them.
That's probably an underrated thing that we take these trips and it's not really the destination, it's the journey, right?
100%.
And I think that doing that with your
being with them.
congregants brings you close to them in a way that isn't.
Yeah.
So we have recently talked about, we're not there yet because we're still very young guys, but you start to begin to think about what's next, right? Because our kids are grown, right? We're both empty nesters and you're in that phase of your life where you're like, how long am I going to do this? So do you think about like your emeritus now? You talked about the two that are at your synagogue, but your
Yeah.
time, like what you might do.
I try not to think about it too much because I want to appreciate the present, and that's so hard in our society, and
Right.
it's only hard for me because am I going to have the finances to do what I want? Am I going to have the health to do what I want? Am I going to have the freedom to do what I want? So but I do think about it because I see, you know what's interesting as a rabbi? You learn so much on how to live and how not to live. And there are some people in my congregation that are amazing models on how to live, and then like any group of people, community, there's some people that have made mistakes
Right.
that I learn from too. And so I try to model after the people that God, I hope I have is half as good of a life as they did. And yeah, no, I think about it. I think all of us, you know, it's something crazy, Scott. You know, I mentioned my mom earlier. You know, you and I are almost 54. You're 54 now. You just had your birthday.
Yeah.
I'm almost 54. And my dad retired when he was 47. I'm not even close to retirement. I cannot imagine.
Although your dad, I remember thinking all these years, like, wow, that was even then. I'm nowhere close. And I always say,
nowhere close.
Well, part of it is, and I think this is maybe where you are at. I definitely, because of the way my life has worked out, I always say I get to, not I have to. So I'm doing work that I want to be
Yeah.
doing. Like I just finished writing my book, so it's an edit
Cool.
now, and I hope to do a lot more speaking in the future. And then this is part of what I think. So the things that I do are fun for me, and as long as you're doing stuff that's fun and you're still finding joy in it,
Yeah.
then that's important.
Absolutely. And meaning in it. No, you and I are very lucky that way.
Very much so, and I think that now. Listen, without also that wanting to go do things with friends, I want to go on one of your trips. That's a goal of mine. So
Right.
I have to tell you, like social media is great because you can see what people are doing. Like I mentioned, I saw you at the Easter services. For some reason, recently, Kenny and Ziggy's must know what I'm thinking about because I constantly get social posts for Kenny and Ziggy's, which is a famous for those that are not around Houston. It's one of the final frontiers of delis, real
the best
delis. I mean,
deli.
we've got some stuff in Dallas that I go to, more what I would call a diner, and the Kenny and Ziggy's. I was about to say, is it the best deli around, like in the Southwest?
I think it's one of the best delis in the world. I'm telling you, the place is. They did a movie, Scott, called Deli Man about 10 years ago.
Yeah.
You can find it online. And Kenny and Ziggy's a member of our congregation. He's a good friend of mine. He's a great guy. He's like one of the main people in Deli Man. It traces like the history of the deli from like a century ago until now. In the movies, they profile like 3 or 4 delis. And one of them is Kenny and Ziggy's because of Ziggy Gruber. And
I guess
honestly,
I
I think it's rated. If there was a ranking, like it would be number 1.
Because I was in New York a few weeks ago, like a month ago, so we're going to get to the bagel in just a second. That's how we're closing, is we're going to have a slight bagel discussion. I think we were by Carnegie. We were like walking by.
Oh, yeah.
I don't remember. A few of them have gone away. And I'm like, no. So but I have such memories when I get a chance, and I haven't been. So the next time I'm in Houston, we have to go because every
For
time I'm
sure.
in Houston, I feel like no. So what do you get there? Like, what's your go-to?
So look, with all that said, I wish I could tell you I could get corned beef or salami or whatever, but it's not kosher.
Right.
It's kosher style. So
Right.
I'll eat the pickles, I'll eat the potato salad and the coleslaw and all that, which is awesome. But I'm usually stuck getting the tuna and egg salad, which is really good. And I asked Zig, I said, can you make it kosher? And I love kashrut, but I can't do it because I'd lose 3/4 of my business.
Yeah, the expense of the non-kosher meat, and especially in this climate,
Yeah.
it's so hard. It has to, the way they preserve and keep it. There's a lot more to it than people realize. But that is what I see is they literally must know now that I'm talking about it, my phone is going to for sure pop up. I'm like, every day I'm seeing a corned beef sandwich, and that's all
I wish I
like.
could have it. And let me tell you, the corned beef is technically kosher, but the dishes,
Yeah,
they're
right.
served
You
with
can't.
dairy, so I can't eat it.
Okay.
I wish I could.
So there is the one thing I told you about pop culture. There is no doubt that the bagel is like at its all-time high. Bagel
Yes.
mania is going on. Okay,
Thanks for talking about
Dallas.
bagels during Passover, but you're right.
Oh, I know. Well, we're not right. I'm not. I'm fine with it now, and I'm observing. I'm actually observing, and I have been for many
My
years.
man.
Yeah, I know.
I like that.
I didn't always, but it's a good thing. I really like
It
doing
is.
it. But the bagel has made this whole thing. I mean, Dallas is loaded with bagel places. I'm assuming Houston has a ton of new bagel places.
For
It's
sure.
like for years they didn't know how to do this, right? Like there was one bagel or two bagel places in Dallas, right? Now they are everywhere. Are you experiencing that? What's behind
Yeah,
it?
bagel is definitely one of our great gifts that we Jews have given to the world.
Yeah.
Oh man, a good fresh bagel. My favorite bagel in Houston is New York Bagel, and it's right down the street from us. There's 2 locations.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of Sunday mornings that I'll go there and be like, I'm picking up bagels. And Lisa will be like, no, we don't need them. I still
Yeah,
want
I
the
know.
bagel."
It's like a thing.
Oh,
I
it's
like
the
it.
best.
We
The
have.
best.
They say that the world's best bagel, the bagel winner. They have this contest is Starship Bagel in Dallas, which is by my old
Oh.
house, and I think it's fine. But Shug's is very close to where I live now. There are many, and they're opening one in Austin. It
Oh,
is
wow.
Chef's kiss. It is so good.
Really?
So what do you? So this is. I've been waiting the whole episode.
Yeah.
What kind of bagel do you get now? There's all these varieties. What kind of bagel do you get when you go to New York Bagel on Sunday morning? And how do you get it?
I think I would, and it's kosher there, by the way. So I would tell you an everything bagel with some really good salami is awesome. It's everything, and then of course I love a good piece of kosher salami.
Wow.
Yeah,
That is not what I thought, but wow.
yeah, it's
All
pretty
right.
good stuff.
Yeah, I mean, I changed mine up. I don't have a go-to, but the bagels, I just was curious if you were like an everything bagel guy. I'm historically a sesame guy. I'm not even sure why.
I know.
I can't figure that. I love it so
Look,
much.
let me tell you, I love a good cinnamon raisin bagel in the morning.
Yeah.
I'll get that
Yes,
sometimes. You
I
can't
love
go wrong
cinnamon
with that.
raisin. I love
Yeah.
cinnamon raisin.
Get your-
I'm sure those that are listening are going to be thrilled to hear that we got through the whole episode to hear your take on bagels. But for me, Brian, I tell you all the time, probably a week doesn't go by. We have a very fun friendship. It's one I treasure. But I've been wanting, since I started the podcast, to have you on. Honestly, you're on my original list of guests, like early on, because you're such a gift, not only to your congregation, but to your friends. And when others see you speak who've never seen a rabbi, you have that thing that you just do, and you're so human about your clergy, and it's what makes you so special. So I'm just so delighted that you were able to join us on Heart of It. Thanks for being on.
And Scott, thanks for everything you're doing. I love what you've taken, what you did, what happened to you, and have created an opportunity to make the world better. And
Thanks,
which is a
Brian.
very Jewish thing and a very good religion thing. And in your own beautiful way, you're increasing light in this world. So keep it up. I know you will. And always happy to help you, Scott. Love you.
Love you, man.